Hello, good day everyone. Once again, this is yours truly, Joe Bren. Welcome back. Sorry, it has been a very long time since I posted my last video. It's been 3 weeks ago. It has been a very busy week for me since I'm teaching and I'm currently we're having our final examination. So now I'm back. So thank you so much for waiting. So today is I'll be posting or continuing a video lesson that I've posted last time. So we talk about my latest video talked about the social and cultural view of the self, and I stopped at this person. No, his idea. His name is Charles Horton Coley. So he discusses about the looking glass self theory, that the way you view yourself, that the sense of self is influenced and affected by how others view us. So the way you understand yourself is affected by the perception of others. So the looking glass self is defined as how you assess yourself based on how other people see you, or the onlookers. Onlookers, these are the people who are known to be your friends, your parents, strangers, a lot of people. So they are considered as onlookers because they are looking at you, they see you. So you use their perception. So whatever their perception about you, you mirror that to yourself. So that is the looking glass self theory. So the core assumption of the looking glass as you see yourself to others. So the core assumption of the looking glass self are the following. Number one is you make an image in your mind of how you appear in front of other people. So you make an image and how you appear to other people. You put that in your head. Then when people are saying that you are this kind of person, you are beautiful, you are pretty, so you put that in your head. So you make an image in your mind of how you appear in front of other people. So you put your own image and how you want others to see you. And the number two core assumption in looking glass theory, this is you make an assumption about how other people will react or judge your appearance. So you make an assumption. So you have your own assumption about how other will react or judge your appearance. So you put that in your head that this is what I like. This is what other people should know about me. So you make an assumption of yourself about how other people will react or judge your appearance. So if you want others to see you as beautiful or pretty, so you have to do something to look you pretty and beautiful. So you have your own assumption about yourself. And number three is you create emotions and act based on your perceived judgment. So you create your own emotions based on the people, based on the perception of others. So you make your own emotions. So these are all the core assumptions of the looking glass self. So you create your own emotion, you make your own self-image, and you make assumption of yourself. So if you want others to judge you as this, based on your physical appearance, that you are sexy, you are like this, so you have to try to do it. You have to look good, you have to wear sexy dresses, you have to do that because that's how you want others to see you. So that's the looking glass. So self-labeling is the outcome of consistent labeling and evaluation of other people. So self-labeling is you put labels towards yourself. So based on the evaluation of other people, you put your own labels. So when other people sees you something like this, so you put that in your head and you put that as your self-label. So it's okay when you label yourself a positive label, but there are times when people are sending or evaluating us in a negative way, and sometimes we put negative labels about us. Okay, so those are the critical moments when you talk about self-labeling. So this happens when you accept how other people label you and incorporate this into your self-concept. So when you accept the label of others, you incorporate that to yourself. When they label you as as this kind of person, a good person, so you put that in your self-concept. However, if people are saying this to you in a negative way, you also put that into your self-concept. That is the downside of doing self-labeling. So as a result, others view and impressions of your as a result, you are influenced by the labels you have. So you are influenced by the different labels that other people said about you. So there is a positive and a negative way of accepting labels. So people can say whatever they want to say about us. They can create labels. They can also give you good labels, but others also can give you negative labels. So they create biases on your part. Because again, you are the only person who knows you better, and other people can only see things that are visible, but they don't really see the inner part of you. So they create biases on your part because they limit your true potential and hinder you from doing things against the label given to you. So hence, it is imperative to evaluate yourself based on reality and not mere assumption. You believe what other people think of you. So it is very important to evaluate yourself based on reality and not just in a mere assumption. So that's the positive and the negative way of doing self-labeling. Number 3, psychologist that we are going to talk about is Leon Festinger. So Leon Festinger he discusses about the social comparison theory. So Festinger was an American cognitive psychologist. So he studied the workings of the mind, or how you think. That's cognitive. So Festinger believed that our sense of self is influenced and affected by comparing ourselves with others. So the way you understand yourself is affected by the way you compare yourself to others. So social comparison takes place when you compare your abilities, your skills, your opinion, your social status and behaviors with those of the other people. So when you compare yourself to other people, that is social comparison. When you compare your skills to others, social comparison. So there are two classifications of social comparison. This includes, number 1, we have the downward social comparison. When I say downward, it is lower than you. So you compare yourself to a much lower than you. So this happens when you try to compare yourself with others with whom you have an edge, meaning you are much more better than the person. That is a downward social comparison, making yourself better and competent. So when you compare yourself to a much lower than you make yourself more better and more competent, that you are good compared to him, that you are much better compared to him. So that's the downward social comparison. This is good when you compare yourself to gain confidence, right? For example, I compare myself to, I do downward social comparison. I compare myself to a much lesser person with lesser achievement compared to me. So I gain confidence about myself that I am good, that I am better, I am competent, that I am brilliant, I am smart. So gain confidence. Self-worth, I love myself, and value. But there's also a bad thing. When you do downward social comparison, the bad thing here is when you do this, to look down on other people. So that's the downside of using the downward social comparison. It gives you confidence, but when you use it to downgrade other people, that is not good at all. So the number 2 classification of social comparison is the upward social comparison. So the upward social comparison states that this happens when you compare yourself with others who have an edge over you. So when you compare yourself to others, okay, so that's the downward social comparison. So the other one is the upward social comparison. So the upward meaning you are comparing yourself to a much better person than you. So when you compare yourself with others who have an edge over you. So this is a good way. This is a good way when you compare when you compare yourself with others who have an edge over you. This is good when you compare yourself with others to look for inspiration, to look up for self-improvement. But the bad thing here is when you do this to look down on yourself. Okay, so upward social comparison, this is good because when you try to look at it in a more positive way, when you look to a person much better than you, so you can gain inspiration, motivation to be like her or like him for self-improvement. But when you feel down, but when you look down on yourself because the person is much better than you, so that is not good at all. So that's the positive and the negative way of doing social comparison, the upward and the downward social comparison. So it depends on you. How will you deal about it? How will you compare yourself to for you to become more better person? So there is a downward and the upward. So number 4, psychologists. So they also help us in trying to understand our social and cultural view of the self, because again, we are surrounded by a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of influences. So we need to know about this concept. So number 4 is the Henry Tyfel and John Turner. So they discusses about the social identity theory. So Tyfel was a Polish-born social psychologist. Turner was a British psychologist. So Tyfel and Turner believe that our membership influences our sense of self in certain groups. So the feeling of being in group or out group affects our social identity. So if Tyfel believe and Turner that if you don't feel that sense of belongingness in a certain group, this may affect your social identity. So for me, yeah, if I don't feel belong in this kind of organization, membership, so I feel so isolated. I don't feel belong. I don't want to come back. I don't want to belong because again, I am part of the out group and it affects me, our social identity. So social identity theory explains that part of a person's self-concept depends on the groups to which they belong. So social identity theory explains that part of you depends on the groups to which they belong. For example, I belong to this community, so it is a reflection of my social identity. If you belong to this group, maybe that is also a reflection of how you see your social identity. So this theory postulates a king of multiple identities and individuals has associated with their group membership. That's why you don't join that organization or membership if you don't feel your sense of social identity, if you don't see yourself to be part of it. For example, I love to dance, so I love to join Zumba club, right? So that's how I see my social identity. So I love to swim, I love to play, anything, whatever is you think is best for your social identity, you go for it. So that's Turner and Tyfel describes about the importance of knowing your social identity, which means an individual may act differently in varying social contexts according to the group they belong to. So which might include the practices they follow in their own families, a sports team they follow, their nationality, the neighborhood they live in, and the like. So I love chatting, I love talking to my family. So I feel so at home. So when I do that, so that's my social identity. So when I go to some formal gatherings, also the way I act, I also change that. So I'm very funny, I am bubbly, but when I go to some very solemn place, I also have to make some adjustments. That's part of my social identity. So there are 3 processes involved in social identity. We have the social categorization. This is the process of deciding group membership. How do you categorize yourself? How do you see yourself? It is social categorization. I want to be part of this group. I want to be I don't like this group. That is part of social categorization. Number 2 is social identification. The process of your identification with the group, your principles and behaviors are compatible with other members of the group. That is self-identification, social identification, meaning you see yourself to be part of the group, you have the same values, the same principles, the same the same behaviors. So possibly you will also identify yourself through that group. That is social identification. So number 3 is social comparison. So the process you employ when you compare yourself with other members in terms of status and accomplishment. So social comparison, when you compare yourself with other members in terms of your accomplishment. So if you are a teacher, so you also belong to that group. You also have a lot of people there comparing. You compare yourself with other members. So if you are a psychometrician, a psychologist, something like that. So that is part of our social comparison. It depends on our status and accomplishment. So I joined the group for Psychological Association of the Philippines because then again, I am a psychometrician, so I need to follow them. I also need to join some convention because I also see my social identity there. Okay, so social identity explains that a part of your self-concept comes from the groups you belong to. So a part of you comes from the groups you belong to. That's why I am very choosy with choosing my groups, no? I also need to check if my values, my behaviors, my actions is also a sort of reflection to the group that I belong to. So you may therefore act in accordance with your group's affiliation. So for example, my husband is a mechanical engineer. He's also part of the group for mechanical engineers. So I don't blend in to the group of engineers because again, I don't see my social identity there. I can't relate. I can't blend. The same as with my husband. He cannot join me in my group because again, the same answer. He cannot blend and he cannot relate. So that's how we are. So how we categorize ourselves when it comes to our group identity. So these groups may include your family, your nationality, religious group, sports team, the neighborhood you live in, and so on. So inter-group comparisons are imminent. So members of an in-group will tend to favor members over the out-group and practice a positive outlook towards members and a negative outlook for the out-group. So we have the inter-group comparison. So we have the out-group and the in-group. So if you feel that you are outcast, if you don't belong to the group, people will have a negative outlook about you. But when you blend to this group, people also have a positive outlook about you. So that's how we do our intergroup comparison. Therefore, this mentality of us versus them greatly affects how a person behaves in differing social contexts. Okay, so that's how it's important to know our social identity. Because if we know our social identity, it's very easy for us to relate. It is very easy for us to blend in. It is very easy for us not to be confused with our own social identity. And the fifth one is Irving Goffman. Goffman, he discusses also about the self-presentation theory. So Goffman was a Canadian-American sociologist. So self-presentation states that your sense of self is influenced and affected by the kind of audience you have. This theory suggests that people tend to present a constructive self-image to others. That is how you present yourself, your self-presentation. So as humans now, we present a constructive self-image to others. We are affected by the kind of audience we have. So that's the idea of Goffman. Okay, so let's talk about the other psychologists. So we have the fifth one, we have the Irving Goffman. So he discusses about the self-presentation theory. So the kind of audience you have affects the way you understand the way you understand or see yourself as a person. So we come up with our own constructive self-image to others. So he points out the 5 self-presentation strategies, which includes number 1, the ingratiation. So the aim is to be liked by others by being friendly. So use of flattery and charm. So I think I usually do this no just to please others ba. So I become so bubbly, I do this. This is part of my self-presentation. I am happy, I am charming. So I'll just use that because I want to give a good self-presentation to others. My self-image. I want to have a good self-image to others. Number two, intimidation. So we have the aim for intimidation is to be feared by displaying aggressive behavior. So people also do this. So they want to have to present a strong image, a very constructive self-image to others. They want to present that. So that's why they are using the number two, which is called the intimidation. They want to be feared by other people because of their aggressiveness. So number three, self-presentation strategies is the exemplification. Exemplification is the aim is to create shame by showing that you are far better than others. So you show that you are much better than them. You are showing that you are good compared to them. That is exemplification. To create shame by showing that you are far better than others. So the number four categories for self-presentation is the supplication. So the aim for this is to pitied by showing that you are hopeless, indigent, and incompetent. Meaning, some people also use this. They look at themselves as very hopeless, or they pity themselves. They pity themselves. They don't see any hope. They are incompetent. They are not good. They don't they don't excel. So that's part of supplication. For me, it's a bit of negative constructive self-image to others. So number five is the self-promotion. So some people also do this. The aim is to be respected by showing that you are competent, skilled, and capable. That is self-promotion. So we do this sometimes to gain confidence again, to see that we are good, we are competent, and we are skilled. Okay, so those are the five self-presentation strategies. This is according to Stanger in the year of 2011. So the sixth person or the sixth psychologist that we are going to talk about is Gert Hofstede. So he discusses about individualism versus collectivism. So Hofstede was a Dutch social psychologist, another psychologist. So we have a lot of psychologists here. So I thought it's only Sigmund Freud. So as we go along with life, there's more psychologists to come. So Hofstede was a Dutch social psychologist. He is best known for developing one of the earliest frameworks for understanding cultural differences globally. So Hofstede cultural dimensions theory identified 6 categories that define culture. But this one aspect of out of his 6 categories that he defined about culture, this one is the most important thing for him, the idea of individualism versus collectivism. So again, according to Hofstede, culture is a way of life. I have my own culture. You also have your culture. So we vary depending on our culture. Cultural background affects how you view yourself. Your background affects how you view yourself. So in individualistic culture, when you are living in a foreign country, they are known to be individualistic. Individualistic culture, people are more independent. They have a strong sense of being independent and how they view themselves. So that's it, what is more individualistic. People have a more independent view of themselves. So they don't get affected with how people see them or view them. They know much better than others. So that is individualistic, more independent. This means that they see themselves as different from others. So when they see themselves different from others, so they don't, that's fine, that's okay, that's part of my culture. So meanwhile, people exposed to collectivists. So here in the Philippines, we are part of Asian countries, so we are known to be collectivistic. Collectivist culture to see themselves as interdependent. So we see ourselves as interrelated to each other, so interdependent. So we define ourselves in terms of our relationship with others. So we define ourselves, our family, we are interdependent, we are related to each other. So there are influences of culture on self-concept. So again, culture is a way of life that people consciously or unconsciously do every day. Culture affects the development of your attitude. It influences how you approach living your life every day. And culture serves a means of social control where people behave according to the norms of society. So, in totality, culture shapes how you think, behave, and feel. So, do you agree with that, with all those statements? So, how you use your culture, it affects you. How you consider yourself as part of the society also affects you. How you behave, it affects you. Culture affects perception. When you say perception, it's how you think, perception. So when you belong to this kind of family, they have this kind of way of life, it affects your perception, how you see life. So most of our understanding of things around us is greatly influenced by our culture. This implies that everything we learn throughout our lives is influenced by the cultural lenses that our family, environment, and early years provide. Okay, so whatever is your family culture, it affects the way you think about life. And we are surrounded by a lot of people. And all the influences since childhood up to now, it affects your own perception. So this can sometimes influence our judgment of people and situation. So the more you are the more you experience a lot of struggles in the early years of life, so possibly you will become a more strong and independent person. So it depends on our experience. It depends also on how you deal with that kind of culture. Some may experience good things in the earlier life, but others also experiences bad things in earlier life. But then again, we can do something about it to make ourselves more improved and more matured. It depends on how we deal with that kind of culture that we have. It affects us. It affects our judgment. It affects our situation. Culture influences behavior. So the way you behave is also impacts by the culture we are raised in. So I was raised in a more strict parents, but I'm very so thankful that I was raised that way, because for me I became a much more matured and a much more controlled person. I learned to respect. I learned to respect their values, their belief, and their teachings. I learned that from them. I learned that since I was still in my childhood years, and I accept if ever I make mistakes. So I always say, if I commit mistakes, I do this. So that's part of culture. The culture is very important. So culture shapes personality. I am like this because of my culture. My husband is like that because of his culture. We are so careful in spending excess a lot of things or buying a lot of stuff, because we always believe that it's not that important to buy that. So it depends on how we are raised in. It depends on how we value things that we are taught about. So culture again shapes personality. So stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. So people often practice biases against outsiders of the social group. So again, if you don't belong to that group, you will be stereotyped, you will feel discriminated, and you will feel a negative thoughts about you. Some people cannot help but put other people into groups and use the label to evaluate them. So again, it affects us. We experience a lot of things, a lot of discrimination, especially if we don't fit in, especially if we feel that we don't belong. So that's a very sad thing when you feel out group or in group, because people are still labeling you and trying to evaluate you based on the group that you are in. So these actions can result in serious consequences. The three aspects of biases, we experience a lot of biases in life, include emotional biases, which is prejudice, cognitive biases, which is stereotyping, and behavioral biases, which is discrimination. Prejudice is the negative thoughts or belief about you. So they will say something bad about you, that is your prejudice. When they consider you, if you belong to that group, you are like them, that is cognitive biases, stereotyping. And when they make judgment about you, that is that you are like them also, that is behavioral biases, also called as discrimination. Just because you make friends with them, it doesn't mean you are like them. But other people, the onlookers, can say something about us. No matter what we do, they can always have something to say about us. Understanding diversity and inclusion. Diversity, people are diverse. Culture is universal. Cultural diversity supports the notion that every person is unique and different. We are the same humans, but we are different in how we deal with life. We are different with our culture because, again, culture is universal. These differences may include race, gender, age, religion, sexual orientation, education, personality, skills, etc. Let's accept that we are diverse. Diversity values that the idea that a person has something to contribute to the world despite these differences. We can contribute a lot of things. Because of our diversity, human diversity, we can do a lot more. We can do a lot of things. We just learn to accept and embrace that we as people, we are different and unique in our own simple way. Thank you so much for listening to this lesson. I hope you are learning a lot through this video. So please stay tuned because I will be posting a lot more videos soon. And then hopefully when I'm done, I will be posting that so that at least I can help you dealing with this subject. Hopefully you get something out of this. Thank you and God bless you.